you really seem, motivated, driven. You've been in the business, Jonny. You've had a ton of, success as well. Let's talk about, I want to talk about really, how you stay motivated, and then I want to touch on, the books and what drove you to write them. So I don't want you to tell me about the books yet, because I want to kind of set the books up. But I do want you to tell me about, what keeps you motivated now that you've experienced, just a tremendous amount of success already in the business.
Sure. I will tell you the most important thing people should do. I just brought to my other office building, I'll show it to you, but my original list of 100 is torn and tattered. And I've had to blow dry the thing probably 20 times because I've dropped it in a hot tub so many times. It's ripped in half. You can barely read it, but I still put a date next to the ones that are crossed out. But I still look at that list all the time. Yeah. If you ever have a bad day, quote unquote, I'm going to challenge that in a second too, by the way. But if you have a day that didn't quite go like you thought it was, you got to remind yourself why you're doing it, not how you're doing it, how you're going to do it. That doesn't matter. You got to back up, remind yourself, why am I doing this? And really, before too long, it's going to become outside of yourself. How do I make this world a better place? Because I'm in it. And that's the cool part. It's not, you're not winning at the expense of anybody else. I'm going to segue a little bit, but one thing that changed me in this business, I mean, I was living the dream, already going on several exotic vacations a year, making a 6-figure income. But I remember one day I walked into this enrollment meeting in New Hampshire at a little police department, right? And when I walked in, the dispatcher there had headphones just like you have on. When she saw me, she ripped off her headphones, ran around the desk and hugged me, literally like tearful in her eyes. And I was like, I didn't realize who she was. If you rewind a few months before that, her husband had bought an accident policy from me at a volunteer fire department one night. Okay, the town fire department gets together once a month for a meeting, and I went there and explained it. And people bought the cancer plan and especially the accident policy from me. Well, he had fallen off, this guy Rick had fallen off a ladder, not putting out a fire, just emptying the gutter at his house. The crack of the rung broke and he landed on his kid's toy truck, bent over sideways. He had broken like a bunch of ribs, his lung was collapsed, and wow. He was out of commission for a long time. But when she came around and hugged me, she said, Jonny, thank God you sold him that policy. We wouldn't have a house if you didn't. He's still not back to work yet. And I tell you what, I was floored. It was a little bit embarrassing because she's clinging to me and all these tough cops are here for my open enrollment meeting, right? But I was a changed man that day because I thought back instantly to honestly how bad it sucked when I lost my house. And I'm thinking this lady didn't have to go through what I went through because I sold her husband something. And I was like, you know what? This is win-win. I kind of knew it, but it became real that day. And since then I've done lots of larger claims, cancer claims. I mean, we're making a difference in people's lives. But I left change that day. So that was a big game changer in my career. I was only a couple of years in, but I had a different outlook on that. So it's win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I know that for you, you mentioned the renewals early on as one of the things that's really, really important. I know that, the ability to help people and add that kind of value is also very valuable for you, you know what I mean? Very important to you, not just to them, but also to you as the agent to be the one that can really help them out. How do you feel like, well, you just spoke to it with the claim. I was going to say, how do you feel like you've really been able to help people in a variety of ways? But I wanted to say, we look at the income that insurance agents can make, right? And, oftentimes, we do talk about that, but how do you feel like that changed your approach to the business versus prior to? You said you've been on the trips. When she came up, hugged you, and you really saw that changed you. Did that change the way that you did business? Did that change your presentations? Like, how did that modify your approach?
It gave me much more passion and urgency that I got to talk to everybody. And yeah. I'm not just tongue in cheek. I'm saying, I mean that. I got to get this to everybody because I believe so much in what I do. If I don't get there in time, they could lose their house. Or, I mean, it might sound crazy, but they could lose their life if we don't sometimes. It's that detrimental to people's livelihood and everything. It's a game changer. And it's win-win though, but it'll make you, I mean, if you're selling voluntary insurance, I challenge people, if you haven't told your siblings and your parents what you do, you will feel like this small if you have to help them move out of their house. Because a great friend of mine in the voluntary business, she had to actually help her best friend move when her house got foreclosed on, going through cancer treatments. And she never told her friend that she sold cancer policies. And she, from that day on, couldn't live with herself not telling everybody. Now, don't pester them. Don't hound them at every barbecue and family reunion and Christmas. I don't mean that. But let them know what they do. And if they want it, great. If not, it's on them. But at least give them the option to protect themselves with something so simple as what we do. So it's important.
It makes a big difference. I hear you tell that story, Johnny. It makes me think about last year, as my father transitioned, he passed, yeah. And he actually bought a life insurance policy from me 2 months before he died, and he died suddenly, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 2 months before he died, he bought that life insurance policy. And let me tell you this, he had another policy that expired the month before he died. So the policy that I sold him is the one that ended up paying for his final expenses when it was all said and done.
Man, that's heavy, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, look, you're right. It is important, to talk to family about it, and make sure that they know. And that story that you just told was exactly what I was looking for when I was asking, that question. Just that little nugget. Man, one of the things I've always thought was really cool about you is that you're really interested in sharing knowledge, a wealth of information for anyone who asks you, and you don't have to be. That's something that you do by choice. And I do want to just take a minute to plug the books. You can too. Let me see if it comes into the camera. Okay, here we go. You can too, and you still can too. Let's talk about these books for a moment. You had some success. One, tell me about the inspiration for the first book, and then you said, "Hey, look, I got something new to share." The inspiration for the second book as well. Like, what was the driver behind that?
The first one, actually, this might sound weird, but I was on one of my Saturday 2-hour vigils looking at my list, right? And I'd already been number 1 in the country. And then my agents were having immediate success my second year as a district manager. And during my hot tub session, I think it was a God thing. I was inspired, write a book about what you just did. And at first I thought I was just going nuts, but I couldn't shake it. I'm in this hot tub. It was like, write a book. I was like, I never wrote a book. What are you talking about? And I'm alone in my hot tub on a Saturday afternoon. I eventually, after I was done my list, I went in, wrapped in a towel, dripping wet, and just sat down for my computer. And I typed with one finger. I just started typing the introduction, of my book, And I didn't know what I was doing. And then the next day I started doing chapter 1. And I remember a week later, there was actually a convention of all the managers on the East Coast are getting together down in Baltimore at some giant Marriott hotel. And it was my first invite being a new manager. So somehow in my mind, I knew that I had to put my rough draft in the copy, in the hands of, they call them P2, like the son of the CEO. He was like taking over the whole company. And I remember my regional manager at the airport that morning, before we left Manchester, New Hampshire, I asked this guy, Bill, I said, hey, do you think Paul Amos would be there? And he said, yeah, he should be. So why? I said, I just wanted to meet him. I didn't even tell him what my idea was, because I thought he'd try to talk me out of it. I think I'd done the introduction, table of contents, started that, but my first 3 chapters. And my wife said the first 3 or 4 chapters were all in different fonts too. They weren't even the same, just in a manila fold, a real rough cut. But it was when I got there, I just knew. And the strangest thing, I was amazed by how many hundreds and hundreds of managers there were. But I remember checking in the hotel, and I had my bag in tow, about to go into the elevator. And, there's like 36 floors, like it's counting down. When it finally hit the L and ding, that opened up, I went in. And guess who the only guy in the elevator was Paul Amos, the grandson of the company. And I was like, all right, this is crazy. It closed. I hit my button like 32, whatever it was, and my heart is pounding the whole time. I was like, this is happening, crap, this is happening. halfway up, I'm just staring at the numbers. I look at him, I say, hey, you don't know me, I'm Jonny Burgess. I'm a new district manager. I think God told me to write a book here. And I put it in his hand, and it was like, ding, the door opened up. I went out, it closed behind me. I was like, wow, that just freaking happened.
Right.
That is exactly how that started. And I was like, I don't know if I'm fired or if he's pissed, or I don't know if he'll throw the trash. I have no idea, but it happens. It was like, it was supposed to happen. Weird thing is, the second day of that convention, in between sessions, there was a break of a couple hours. And I was just trying to take, I learned so much, met so many people on the, and I was actually heading to the hot tub. Okay. I'm a hot tub fanatic. So I was going to go contemplate and read and, just meditate in a hot tub. I'm talking about swim trunks this time, t-shirt on, towel around my neck to get on to go down. Because who the only other guy, I'm talking about out of thousands of people in this giant hotel, the only guy in the elevator the second time again was Paul Amos.
Wow.
And when I got in, he said, hey, Jonny, I read it. I can't wait to see the rest of it. And he gave me a thumbs up. And that's like all I needed after that. I was like, I couldn't believe it happened. It was like destiny. The first convention was a cruise that was going to happen in October. So between, I don't know, it was March to October. I wrote the rest of the book, still in rough draft, different fonts, different chapters in a manila envelopes. And on that convention, I gave it to different CEOs and presidents of the company and vice presidents. It took me I didn't know anything about proofreading and editing. That was the unfun part. It took almost another year, but it finally went live the following year. And then state managers of all kinds of, operations all over the country started flying me in, teaching their group, their teams how to do what we did. Nobody ever built the business that quick before.
Yeah.
So that was the first, that's the story of how the first book came to be. But then with all the changes in the market and all the experiences I had and how much the industry had evolved, I didn't plan on it, but it was just bubbling up inside me after a few years. I just knew another book was in there. And again, it just came out. It was kind of weird the way it happened. And just started reaching out and people just gravitated toward it. And second one, a lot more other carriers were even doing it as well. And it just really exploded from there, kind of. But yeah, a lot of it was, like you said, you're a great leader, okay? We love to help people. It's not just about us. Like Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you can have whatever you want. It's not why you do it, but it's just cause and effect. You reap what you sow. And I love almost more than anything is when I nominate or, even if I'm interviewing a new agent, that I can see the dream is behind there, but they don't dare dream big anymore, or they certainly won't tell you. They're just afraid to dream big. They've just been either told they couldn't do it or failed and didn't dare, it hurt. They don't dare to try again. I love bringing that dream, that belief factor out of people and just drawing it out, just daring them to dream a little bit bigger than they are right now. I mean, I can go from 0 to 1 million. If you'll go with me, I can get you to dream. I'll believe it along with you. But faith is like a muscle. After you have a little success, like, wow, this might actually be real. So I love to give people that 5-year vision, that 20-year vision. What do you want your life to look like?
Right.
One thing, Joel Osteen, big fan of his talks. And he was inside a guy's house in some movie, famous actor, who's also producing movies now. And giant mansion, the whole length of his hallway was index cards pinned up on it, right? And Joel asked him, I said, what is that? And he said, oh, that's a movie I'm writing. I'm writing the whole script. And every one of those index cards is a different scene in the movie. And Joel was saying, that seems like such an overwhelming task. How do you even know where to start? He said, oh, that's easy. You write the last chapter first. Sometimes we even shoot the scene. So we find out who's going to die in the end, who's going to get hooked up and married at the end, whatever. And once you know that, now you just work backwards. So that's how I treated my business, is know where you want to end up in vivid detail, because you can have whatever you want. That's the thing. I'm giving you the permission. Dream big again, because you can have whatever you want, but you have to decide what you want. You cannot vague goals have vague results. Those SMART goals we talk about, you have to be crystal clear about what you want. Wishy-washy is not good. You can't just say, I want to make a lot of money. You got to say, I want to make this much money this month. And if you never made 8,000 a month, write it down. If you never made 5,000 a month, start with that. Once you hit it, now you're going to dare to think a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And there's days where you make thousands of dollars in a day. You get really excited. You dare to add a zero onto whatever you were thinking before. It just gets real exciting. But I love sharing with that.
Yeah.
Another realization I came to, I had 2 huge moments in my career before I wrote my second book. One, I told you about, that dispatcher who was firefighter husband. hugged me that day. That was a game changer. But another one was the day I was writing my doctor's office's company. I was doing a lunch and learn. So I brought the pizza in during lunch, and all the doctor's assistants bought the accident, the hospital plan from me. Someone bought some other stuff. And usually the last person I would write would be the doctor himself. So, I wrote that doctor disability, because if he didn't have his hands, he couldn't do what he does. So in disability policies, you have to ask what they make, because you can offer them a portion of that. And I like to not necessarily max out all the time, but try to figure out what their basic expenses were if they ever went down. So when he told me how much he made, I'd only been in the business 2 or 3 years, and I was like, oh my goodness, I make more than this guy does. And he had, a fat 6-figure income, but that was kind of shocking to me. And then I said to him, Dr. Andy, so what is your biggest expense? Probably your mortgage. Without a hesitation, he said, are you kidding me? It's my school loans. He said, it's still $2,800 a month. Him and his wife are both chiropractors. They've been in the industry for 10 years, but they still had a school mortgage of $2,800 a month 10 years later. I left that, and he is married to his practice. Like I was married to my karate school, he was married to his practice. He'd say any patient he could, 8 in the morning, so sometimes 7:30 at night. I mean, he was just married to his practice. And I was thinking that, geez, I don't even usually work Fridays. I got all the freedom in the world. I travel whenever I want, and I'm making more than this doctor. That also changed me, because it's people can take this business for granted, but if you can appreciate what we have, I mean, it's unbelievable. I think if it costs people, so many people from other countries come here for the American dream, and they spend money they don't have. They'll mortgage everything and beg, borrow, and steal from every uncle, and they'll buy a pizza shop or something like that. And they will live there, and they put their heart and soul into it, and they make a fortune. Okay. But they're not going to show up for work on a bad day. They don't feel like it. Their whole life's on the line there. Their mortgage on their house is backing that restaurant.
That's right.
It's either going to make it or you're going to sink. Those people don't fail. They're in it to win it, and they do whatever it takes. If it costs a couple $100,000 to join our business, people would treat it that way, like a business, and you would succeed. You would actually make a lot more money faster if you had this big note attached to it, or your house is on the line. But it almost seems like it's too easy, so people don't appreciate what we have. So just an interesting take on that.
And it's not easy. And it's not really easy. It's not hard, right? It's not rocket science, but it does take, that dedication and commitment, and effort.
I won't say it's easy. I will say it's simple.
It's simple. Yes. Not easy.
Yeah,
simple, not easy.
Correct. But it's worth it. Definitely worth
Absolutely. I got a tough question for you.
What's that?
College or insurance license?
100% insurance license.
All right.
100%. Almost. I mean, my own personal story, I could have gone to MIT for free. My dad retired from MIT, and I was in this advanced accelerated program in junior high. Except for a couple of English courses, I was done my high school courses middle of my freshman year. I just took all blow-off courses and taught karate every afternoon, basically. But I had zero interest to go, and I don't know why, but I just knew I had to be self-employed. And I used to go to work with my dad, and he was even making money at this prestigious university, MIT, but he had to commute into Boston every day, both ways, almost an hour commute with all the traffic. And he had to go there every single day. He was confined. I mean, he didn't make his own schedule, didn't have the freedom. I just knew very on I couldn't. Now, there's certain things. If anybody listened to this, if you were 2 years old walking around with a fake stethoscope around you, and you're always looking at people's ears and mouths, say, you played doctor while you were 5, when you were 12, when you were 20. If you're made to be a doctor, then be a doctor. That's what you're hardwired to be. You got to go to school for that. Okay. If you're cutting me open, I hope you have some training. Okay. And my son's halfway through law school. He's not built for sales. Okay. Some of my kids are, but he's not. It's okay. If you're a lawyer, you got to know all the Latin words and sociari, all those famous words, and how to write documents and constitutional law. But business, if you're going to college to learn business, you are learning from somebody that is teaching you theory. If they knew how to run a business, they would own one. Instead, they have a job. They have a job at a college. How can they possibly teach that? I learned that from Herb Ecker early on. He's got a book about millionaire mindset.
Mm-hmm.
He, down in Florida, he built a whole chain of gyms, and eventually, and not like a Planet Fitness kind of chain, and he sold it for a couple $100 million eventually. Okay. Living the dream for a couple years. And he said, what's next? He said, I think I want to get into bakery business. Okay. So, and he wasn't thinking like a little corner cupcake shop. He was thinking like the next Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or something like that. So what he did, he literally took a minimum wage job at a local bakery. And he said to the owner, I'm going to be the first one in, last one out. I will do everything you ask. I'll clean the floors, clean the bathrooms, and work really hard for you on the condition that you show me everything from the backside of the house to what it takes to run a business like this. This is a guy with hundreds of millions of dollars working for whatever, $8 an hour or whatever it was from a guy just to learn to trade. Now, after a few weeks, he realized it wasn't really his passion, but he said he learned more in 2 or 3 weeks being behind that bakery counter than he could have ever learned in theory for 4 years at a university, wasting tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay? And even if you're meant to be a doctor, it's not easy. I don't even know that one's simple, okay? But you're not rich the day you become a doctor. The day you graduate from medical school, congratulations, you got a diploma, but you're not rich, okay? You have a whole bunch of debt hanging over you, just like my doctor did after 10 years.
Yeah.
And now what are you gonna do? You have to go open a practice somewhere, which means you gotta spend money just like that pizza shop owner, except now you have a tuition bill too. You're gonna have to rent an office, buy chairs, your Novocaine, your prescription licenses, your supplies, and you got to get 6 months of pay in the bank for all the people that want to work for you because they just want a job. They don't want to wait till you build up your clientele. And it's a nice lifestyle, but it's probably 20 years before you get there. Because think about 8, 9, 10, 11 years of specialist training in school, and then you're catching up. After 20 years, fantastic lifestyle.
Right.
Here you can do it in 2. That's the difference. And you don't have to wear a pager that nobody's water breaks in the middle of the day that needs an accident plan that bad. It can wait, you know what I mean? So basically what we can do is we can get there 2 to 5 years, just be here. By the time you're in this business for 10 years, you've honed your craft so well and your renewals are still paying you for work you did years ago. You're in a really good spot and you can write your own ticket. But I don't know if that was too long of an answer. I'm not against education.
Right. We want to make that clear. Yeah, we're not against education, but it's a very valid point. You know, I know that we both know individuals who have come straight out of high school, you know, gotten their insurance license, and a year or two later, you know, they're living fantastic lifestyles, and they have really raised their lid and matured exponentially in a very short amount of time, just based on their working processes, you know, just being in the mix on a day-to-day. So I think you make a great point.